Some stories aren't about winning fast, but about not giving up when everything feels slow. This is the story of John, but it might as well be the story of you. John was 28, from Brazil, and he had a simple dream. I want to speak English fluently. I want to feel confident, connected. I want to stop being afraid. He wasn't aiming to be perfect. He didn't need to sound like a Hollywood actor. He just wanted to be understood, to express himself, to feel like he belonged in a global world. And so he did what many of us do. He searched for answers online. He found videos that screamed, "Learn English in 3 months. Say goodbye to grammar. Top 10 tricks fluent speakers know." He believed them. Why wouldn't he? These people looked happy, confident, fluent. They made it sound easy. So he thought maybe I can too. And for a while it felt like progress. He created study schedules, set alarms, listened to English podcasts while cooking, shadowed native speakers' voices during his commute, started every morning with a vocabulary list, every evening with a TED Talk, every single day. But behind the scenes, John was exhausted. He didn't tell anyone, but slowly, the pressure started to grow inside him like a balloon ready to burst. Because no matter how much he did, the results never matched the effort. When he tried to speak to someone in real life, the words didn't come out. His voice trembled. His accent felt wrong. He worried people were judging him, correcting him, thinking he was dumb. It was like I studied and studied, but my confidence never grew with my vocabulary. At first, he blamed the method, then the apps, then the environment, but eventually he started blaming himself. "I thought maybe I was just stupid," he said. "Everyone else was improving. They posted videos, they had conversations, but me, I was still stuck." He scrolled through Instagram and saw people sharing day 30 results of their language journey. Smooth English, big smiles, motivational quotes. But behind John's screen was a man sitting alone in his room, asking himself, "What's wrong with me?" And that's the thing about the way we learn today. We've turned growth into a race. We've made progress a competition. And somehow, if you're not fast, you're not good enough. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Speed doesn't equal success. Pressure doesn't build confidence. And rushing doesn't help you remember. John didn't know that, not yet. All he knew was that he was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of feeling behind. Tired of chasing. So one night, he did something different. He didn't quit. He didn't throw his books away. He didn't delete his apps. He just sat there. No English video. No grammar review. No goal. He breathed. He was silent. And in that silence, for the first time in months, he heard his own voice whisper, "What if I'm not broken? What if I've just been learning in a way that isn't mine? What if slow is not weak but deep?" That was the moment. The one that changed everything. But it didn't come with fireworks. No applause, no viral post. It came quietly, gently, with a realization. I don't need to go faster. I need to go realer. And that is where John's real journey began. If you've ever felt like you were too slow, If you've ever compared yourself and felt small, if you've ever wondered if this language just wasn't for you, then listen closely. Because the next chapter is not about how John studied harder. It's about how he studied smarter. How he built English not as a subject to memorize, but as a rhythm to live. Sometimes, the most powerful change is the quietest one. The moment when you stop running and start listening. After months of chasing perfection, John stopped. But he didn't give up. He just stepped back, stepped out of the noise, out of the competition, out of the pressure to be fluent now. And in that pause, something beautiful began. He stopped forcing English into rigid hours. Instead of treating it like a subject he had to study, he started treating it like a friend he wanted to spend time with. I realized English wasn't something I had to conquer, John said. It was something I had to invite into my life. So he made a simple decision. I will no longer measure myself by speed. I will measure myself by connection. Morning routine? Instead of memorizing 50 words, John picked one sentence from his favorite movie. He repeated it slowly, felt the rhythm, imagined using it in real life, whispered it like it was a thought, not a script. You never really know someone until you see their choices under pressure. He spoke it aloud while brushing his teeth, not to study, but to live it. Breakfast? He listened to short English podcasts, not lessons, but stories. True crime, psychology, personal growth. And he didn't try to catch every word. He let the words flow over him like waves. He trusted that his brain would absorb the patterns slowly, naturally, deeply. At work, on breaks, he didn't cram. He wrote thoughts in English short journal entries on his phone. Not to be perfect, but to be real. Today I felt tired, but I'm proud of myself for showing up. He didn't post it, didn't share it, didn't care about likes. It was just between him and the language, a conversation, a friendship, a mirror. And at night, he replaced pressure with peace. Instead of a 90-minute cram session, he watched one short English video he loved, something that made him laugh or think. And then he did something bold. He turned off the screen, laid in bed, and replayed the words in his mind. Let them echo. Let them breathe. My learning didn't stop when I closed the app, John said. That's when the real learning began. Days turned into weeks. John didn't feel faster, but he felt lighter. And slowly something started to shift. One day, on the subway, a tourist asked him for directions in English. Normally he would freeze, smile awkwardly, panic inside. But this time, he answered. Not perfectly, not quickly, but calmly. You can take this line to Central Station. Just 3 stops from here. The tourist smiled. Thank you so much. John smiled back. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't doubt himself. That was the first time I felt like English was mine, he said. Not something I was borrowing, but something I had grown. And that's the magic of learning slowly. It doesn't come with gold medals. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't happen on a timeline you can control. But it's real. And once you feel it, really feel it, there's no going back. Because slow learning isn't weak. It's wise. It's sustainable. It's human. John's story didn't end with fluency. It began with freedom. The freedom to speak. The freedom to make mistakes. The freedom to be himself in any language. And that freedom, it didn't come from speed. It came from choosing to learn like a human being, not like a machine. So if you're watching this now, feeling slow, tired, stuck, just remember you're not behind, you're just blooming at your own pace. Becoming. How John built an English-speaking identity language isn't just about grammar. It's about becoming someone new word by word, sentence by sentence, mistake by mistake. At first, for John, English was a goal, a mountain to climb, a thing to conquer. But the longer he stayed with it through quiet mornings with podcasts, late nights whispering phrases to himself, and silent walks with English thoughts running through his head, he began to realize he wasn't just learning English. He was learning to live in English, and in doing so, he was becoming someone else, not entirely different, but somehow deeper, more expressive, more brave, more himself. Let me explain. When John first began, he translated everything in his head, from Portuguese to English and back again. Every time I tried to speak, it felt like carrying a backpack full of dictionaries, he said. But slowly, as he listened to stories, read short texts, watched movies without subtitles, he began to think in English. And thinking in English brought out different parts of him. In Portuguese, he was soft-spoken. He didn't always feel safe sharing his ambitions. But in English, he discovered a surprising freedom. I could talk about my dreams, he said, without worrying what people thought. It's like English gave me permission to believe in bigger things. So he started journaling in English. Every morning, just a few lines, thoughts, fears, hopes, little victories. And as he wrote, he noticed something unexpected. He was writing things he had never told himself in his native language. Things like, I'm allowed to be slow. I don't need to be perfect. I'm proud of myself for trying. That's when John understood. English was no longer just a language to him. It was a mirror showing him who he was becoming. He made tiny changes that seemed small, but turned out to be life-changing. He switched his phone's language to English, changed his browser settings, subscribed to newsletters, followed creators who spoke about self-growth in English. He didn't force it. He just shifted his world 1 inch at a time. Soon, he was living inside the language, not just studying it. I used to think I had to leave my culture behind to learn English, he shared. But now I see I'm not replacing who I am. I'm expanding it. And then came the moment that changed everything. A virtual language exchange meetup. Something he would have never dared to do 6 months ago. He joined with trembling hands, heart pounding. He could feel the old fear creeping in. But then he remembered the words he had written in his journal just that morning. It's okay to be scared. You're doing it anyway. And that's courage. When it was his turn to speak, he took a deep breath and said, Hi, I'm John from Brazil. And for a long time I thought I was too slow to learn English. But going slow helped me find my voice and myself. There was a pause, then smiles, then applause, and someone from the group typed in the chat, "Thank you. I've been feeling the same way." That night, something inside John clicked. He wasn't just a learner anymore. He was a speaker, a storyteller, a human being who had carved out a new space to exist in another language. He didn't sound like a native, and he didn't want to. He sounded like John, honest, kind, thoughtful, brave. "The more I used English," he said, "the more I understood that fluency isn't about speaking fast or perfectly. It's about speaking with truth, with presence, with heart." Now, English is part of how he lives, how he writes, how he dreams, and most of all, how he connects. Not just with the world, but with himself. Language is not something you master. It's something you grow into. Like a home you build, slowly until one day, you realize you're already living in it. They called me inspiring. But most days I still felt like a beginner. John had become a small flame in the dark. Not a celebrity. Not a guru. Just a guy who didn't quit. People were starting to notice. Comments flooded his videos. "You're so fluent now. I wish I could speak like you. How did you do it?" But here's what they didn't see. What the camera never captured. The silence after he hit record, then deleted the video because he hated how he sounded. The hesitation before every, "Hi, how are you?" The pause when someone spoke too fast and his brain froze. John was still in the middle of it, still writing vocabulary on sticky notes, still re-watching the same TED Talk 5 times just to catch the tone, still mixing up borrow and lend, still unsure if he was saying beach or beach. One Thursday night, he joined a video call with 3 English speakers, all friendly, all fast. 10 minutes in, he lost the thread. He smiled, nodded, pretended to follow. But inside, why can't I keep up? Do I even belong here? Maybe I was never meant to be fluent. That night, something broke, not dramatically, just quietly. He closed his laptop, put his head on the desk, and whispered to no one, "I don't know if I'm good enough for this." But the next morning, he woke up to a message from a guy named Luis in Mexico. "Hey, John, just wanted to say your video last week gave me hope. I've been learning for years and always feel too slow, but you reminded me that slow is okay. Thanks for being real." John stared at the screen. A tear slipped down, not out of sadness, but something deeper. Recognition. He remembered why he started this journey in the first place. Not to become impressive, not to prove anything, but to connect, to speak, to share, to be understood. So that day he opened his notebook. At the top of the page he wrote, "Still learning, still becoming." And underneath, one goal. Record a podcast episode, no edits, just honesty. He did. The episode was called, "I Still Struggle Too." He didn't try to sound perfect. He didn't hide the hesitations. He didn't avoid the hard parts. He told the story of forgetting a simple word, the shame, the fake smile, the voices in his head. Then he said, slowly but clearly, even now I mess up, but I've stopped waiting to be perfect. I just show up every day, and that's enough. That episode, it went viral, not because it was polished, but because it was real. People messaged from all over. I thought I was alone. Thank you for saying what I was too scared to admit. You gave me permission to keep going. In that moment, John realized something beautiful. You don't need to be fluent to be powerful. You don't need to be perfect to be impactful. You just need to be authentic. And from that day on, John stopped chasing a finish line. He embraced the journey. He no longer saw himself as behind. He was simply becoming. One sentence at a time, one conversation at a time, one imperfect, honest moment at a time. And maybe so are you. Because learning English is not about showing off. It's about showing up. Even when you're tired, even when you're afraid, even when no one claps for you, especially then. Still learning, still becoming. So is John. So are you. You can study English for years, but the first time you connect with someone in it, that's when it becomes real. It happened in the most ordinary place. A quiet bookstore cafe in São Paulo. John was sitting in the corner, sipping coffee, reading The Alchemist, the English version, of course. His eyes scanned each word slowly, carefully, like a monk reading scripture. Then a voice cut through. Hey, is that Paulo Coelho? He looked up. A girl stood there. Blonde hair, backpack, American accent. John's heart jumped. Yes, he said. He is my favorite author. His voice trembled not with fear, but with effort, every syllable measured, but genuine. She smiled. No way. I love that book. Mind if I sit? And just like that, a simple conversation became something more. They talked about books, travel, dreams, mistakes. He didn't understand everything she said. He asked her to slow down. Twice. He mixed up tenses. He said, I very like it instead of I really like it. But she didn't laugh. She didn't correct him. She listened. And when he spoke even imperfectly, she heard him. That moment didn't feel like a language test. It felt like life. Real, messy, human. They talked for an hour, then 2, then they added each other on Instagram. Her name was Emma, a traveler from Canada. She called him brave. Most people just say hello and run away, she laughed. You actually tried. That's cool. John smiled. But inside something shifted. Because for the first time, English wasn't something he was studying. It was something he was living. That night, he didn't study grammar. He didn't memorize phrasal verbs. He replayed the conversation in his head. Not to correct it, but to feel it again. The way she laughed when he said, I'm very excited. The way he found the word childhood just in time to finish his story. The way he forgot for a few seconds that he was even speaking English. That's when he wrote this in his journal. Language isn't about words. It's about windows. Today I opened one. He messaged her the next day. "Thank you for yesterday. You gave me confidence." Emma replied, "You gave me hope. Most people in your city don't try to talk to me. You made me feel welcome." They kept talking, sometimes texting, sometimes voice messages. One day she sent him a photo of her coffee and said, "Still thinking about our Paulo Coelho chat?" John replied with a voice note nervous, imperfect, real. "Me too. I think English is better because of that moment." Was it love? Maybe not. But it was something just as beautiful. A connection. A reminder. That English isn't about impressing strangers. It's about understanding them and letting them understand you. And the next time someone asked John, "Why are you learning English?" he didn't say, "For my job," or to pass IELTS, or to sound native. He just smiled and said, "To make friends." Sometimes the greatest reward of learning a language is not speaking it perfectly, but using it to truly connect. At first, I was trying to learn English. Now I'm becoming someone who lives in it. There's a strange moment in every learner's journey. It's not loud, not dramatic, but it changes everything. One morning, John looked at his phone and realized something. His YouTube feed was now mostly in English. The podcasts he listened to while cooking, all in English. The jokes in his meme group chat, English too. Even the voice in his head sometimes whispered back in English. At first he thought he was imagining it, but the more he paid attention, the more he noticed. He wasn't just using English anymore. He was thinking in it. Not always. Not perfectly, but enough to feel it. Something inside was shifting. It wasn't just about language. It was about identity. John wasn't pretending to be someone else. He was becoming more of himself, but in a language that once felt foreign. He caught himself reacting faster, laughing at jokes without translating, writing journal entries in English without even realizing it. He no longer felt like a student of English. He felt like a person who lived a little more in English every day. And that changed his energy. He used to be nervous when meeting foreigners. Now he felt curious. He used to dread messaging in English. Now he initiated conversations. He used to correct himself 100 times before sending one voice note. Now he just spoke because clarity mattered more than perfection. He started thinking, if English is becoming part of me, then maybe I can build a new version of me using this language. He began choosing English usernames that reflected his passions. He wrote posts on Reddit sharing his thoughts on books, culture, and life. He made a playlist of songs that spoke to his soul, not just his vocabulary, and slowly, that shy Brazilian guy who once feared saying hello began to show up, in English, as himself. One day a friend asked him, "Are you trying to be someone else, speaking English all the time?" John smiled and answered in English, "No. I'm trying to be someone who's not afraid to speak at all." That's when he truly understood. English wasn't something he was learning. It was something he was becoming part of, not to replace who he was, but to expand it, elevate it, share it with the world. He started saying things like, "I'll check that podcast later. Let me write it down in my journal. Did you hear that TED talk about purpose?" Things no one had to teach him. things he picked up because English was no longer the destination, it was the road. And he was walking it, one word at a time, one voice message at a time, one bold, imperfect, beautiful conversation at a time. Because when you stop asking, how long will it take me to speak perfect English? And start asking, how much of the world can I experience through English today? That's when the real transformation begins. English is not just a language. It's an invitation to connect, to express, to become. And John, he accepted that invitation fully. I used to be the one asking for help. Now I'm the one giving it. It started with a comment, just a few words, typed by someone from the other side of the world. I feel so stupid. Everyone speaks better than me. Maybe English isn't for me. John paused. The old version of him, the one who froze at hello, the one who whispered apologies for every mistake. That version would have silently nodded in agreement. But not anymore, he replied. Not with perfect grammar, not with fancy words, but with something more powerful, his truth. I used to feel the same way. I tried everything fast, failed, and almost gave up. Then I learned to go slow, to live with English. And that's when everything changed. He pressed send, and something clicked. He wasn't just a learner anymore. He was a guide, not an expert, not a teacher, but someone who had walked through the darkness and could now hold up a tiny light for others. That message got a reply, then another, and another. People started asking, how did you keep going? What helped you the most? Can I really do this? And John answered them, not with formulas, not with magic tricks, but with honesty, with encouragement, with proof that progress is possible, even if it's slow. Soon he was invited to join a small English-speaking group online, not as a silent listener, but as someone with something to say. He shared his routines, talked about his struggles, laughed with others who once felt like outsiders just like he did. And for the first time he realized, maybe I didn't go through all of this just for me. Maybe it was to help someone else feel less alone. One evening during a group call, a girl from Turkey said, I almost quit English, but your story helped me stay. John didn't know what to say. His heart pounded. This wasn't just language anymore. This was impact. This was connection. This was what he had always dreamed of. Not fluency, not perfection, but belonging. The ability to show up as himself and make someone else feel seen. He closed his laptop that night with a smile. Not because he'd mastered English, but because he finally understood. The slow path isn't weak, it's wise, and it's worth it. Your story, no matter how messy, slow, or imperfect, can become someone else's light. Just like John's did, and maybe, just maybe, yours will too. At some point, the mountain I climbed became someone else's map. John never planned to become a guide. He wasn't after followers. He didn't think of himself as a content creator. But when he saw that his journey, his slow, quiet, honest journey, was helping people, something inside him woke up. He thought, what if my struggles could save someone else a year of doubt? What if my voice could be the one I needed to hear back then? So one evening, John sat down in front of his laptop. No fancy mic, no lights, just him, a camera, and his story. He recorded a short video. It wasn't perfect. His accent showed. He paused a few times. He stumbled on a word or two, but it was real. "Hey, my name's John. I used to think I was too slow to learn English. Now, I know that going slow was my superpower." He shared how he stopped chasing speed, how he built English into his daily life, how the moment he let go of pressure, progress began. He clicked upload, then closed the laptop, heart pounding. He didn't expect much, but within a week, comments poured in. "This is exactly how I feel. Thank you. I've never heard anyone explain it like this. I finally feel seen." One message hit him the hardest. "I cried watching this, because for the first time, I believe I'm not a failure." That's when John knew. He didn't need to be perfect to be powerful. He just needed to be honest. He started writing weekly posts on forums, sharing his routines, his doubts, his breakthroughs. Sometimes in writing, sometimes through voice. Sometimes just a simple message. "You're not alone. Keep going." People started asking him, "How did you build confidence? How do you stay motivated? How do I make English a part of my life too?" John didn't give them shortcuts. He gave them stories. Stories of when he almost quit. Stories of when he cried out of frustration. Stories of when a small win, like understanding a podcast without subtitles, felt like a miracle. And with every story he shared, he healed a little more. He grew a little stronger, and so did the people listening. One day someone messaged him, "Because of you, I joined my first English speaking club. Because of you, I stopped being ashamed of my accent. Because of you, I spoke to my first foreign friend today." That's when John whispered to himself, This is bigger than English." It was about hope. It was about believing again. It was about building a life you thought you didn't deserve. And John? He was living proof that you don't need talent. You don't need to be fast. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep walking, even if it's slow. Especially if it's slow. Because slow is sustainable. And sustainable becomes unstoppable. The best version of you is waiting, not at the finish line, but in every brave, slow step you take today. And if John could do it, so can you.
"This is it," John whispered. "Everything I've done, it brought me to this moment."
It was a Tuesday morning, sky gray, coffee strong, hands shaking. John sat in front of his laptop, wearing a button-up shirt, the same one he wore to his first job interview in Portuguese years ago. Only this time, the language was different. English. An international tech startup had seen one of his online English posts. They liked his story. They liked his courage. And they liked his voice. Not the accent, but the voice that came from someone who refused to give up. They invited him for an interview. Remote. 30 minutes. All in English. John stared at the screen. The Zoom link was blinking. 10:59 a.m. He thought about backing out, thought about pretending he was sick, thought about everything that could go wrong. What if I freeze? What if I forget words? What if they laugh at my accent? Then he took a breath and remembered the version of him who whispered hello for the first time. The version of him who couldn't understand movies without subtitles. The version of him who almost quit. He wasn't that person anymore. He clicked, "Join meeting." Faces appeared, smiles. "Hi, John. Great to meet you." His mouth was dry, but he smiled back. "Thank you. I'm really happy to be here." And just like that, it began. The first few minutes were awkward. He repeated a sentence, mispronounced opportunity, laughed nervously, but they didn't care. They leaned in, they listened, and slowly, word by word, John found his rhythm. They asked, "Tell us about yourself." He didn't list a resume, he told a story, how he learned to communicate, how he grew a small online community, how his biggest weakness, slow learning, became his greatest strength. They asked, "What motivates you?" John said, "I want to be part of something bigger. I know what it feels like to be lost. If I can help build something that makes people feel seen, heard, then that's where I want to be." By the end of the interview, one of them said, "John, you have something rare, not just language, but presence. We'll be in touch very soon." He closed the laptop. His whole body was trembling, but not from fear, from pride. No matter what happened next, whether he got the job or not, John had already won. Because this wasn't just an interview, it was proof. Proof that the time he spent listening to podcasts while washing dishes, reading books one page at a time, recording voice notes when no one listened, it all mattered. That day, he walked outside, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "I'm not just learning English anymore. I'm living it." Your first real English moment may feel terrifying, but trust me, when it comes, you'll be more ready than you think, just like John was, and that is only the beginning. John's first trip abroad, and the English world beyond the screen. John had never flown out of Brazil. He had dreamed of it, of course, postcards on his wall, maps with pins, but it had always felt out of reach, until one email changed everything. "Dear John, we're excited to invite you to our headquarters in Amsterdam for the second round of interviews. All travel expenses covered. Let us know if you're available to join us next month." John froze. Was this real? He reread the email 5 times, then again, then once more, just to be sure. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just smiled. A quiet, long, proud smile. Over the next few weeks, everything moved fast. Passport renewed. A backpack packed with just essentials. A phone loaded with downloaded English podcasts, just in case. But something was different this time. He wasn't panicking. Yes, he still rehearsed some phrases in his head. Yes, he still worried about airport announcements, but deep down, he knew he belonged on that flight. At the airport, He stood in the immigration line, heart pounding. The officer looked at his passport. Purpose of visit? Work. I mean, interview. For a company. The officer stamped the page. No more questions. No, you don't sound like a native. No, your English isn't good enough. Just a stamp, a nod, and a door opening to a new world. As the plane lifted off, John looked out the window. He saw his city shrinking below, his old doubts, his old fears. Left on the ground. Amsterdam, cold wind, fast bicycles, English signs everywhere, people from every continent. And suddenly, John was no longer studying English. He was inside it. Ordering coffee wasn't just a role play anymore. Asking directions wasn't a classroom exercise. Checking in at the hotel wasn't a textbook example. It was real, and it was messy. Sometimes he didn't understand. Sometimes he had to ask again. Sorry, can you say that slower? But every single time, he survived. No one laughed. No one rolled their eyes. In fact, most people smiled. You speak English really well, one barista said. John chuckled. Thanks. I've been learning slowly. She smiled back. That's the best way to learn anything. The company office was modern, glassy, and full of accents from all over the world. The interview panel wasn't just interested in his skills. They asked him about his journey. What made you keep going? Someone asked. John looked out the window, then looked back. Because I didn't want to keep waiting for the perfect moment. I decided to make progress, even when it was slow, especially when it was slow. Silence, then applause. After the interview, John walked alone by the canal. He bought a small notebook and wrote just 4 words. I belong here now. And maybe that's the secret. Not sounding perfect, not being the best, but showing up again and again, until one day you're not trying to speak English anymore. You just do. John's journey didn't end when he stepped off the plane. In fact, it was just beginning. Because learning a language isn't just about grammar or exams. It's about expanding your world, one word, one voice, one moment at a time. A call that changed everything, from fear to fulfillment. When English becomes the bridge to a new life, John was back in Brazil. The trip felt like a dream, a parallel life he had touched for just a few days. But now he was back in his room, the same posters on the wall, the same quiet. He couldn't stop thinking about the interview. Every sentence, every smile, every time he hesitated and still made it through. Maybe I messed up, he thought. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. Maybe my accent was too strong. The doubt returned, like it always did. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. International code. His heart jumped. He stared at the screen, breath held, and answered. Hello, John. This is Anna from the Amsterdam team. Her voice was calm, professional, but kind.
We just wanted to thank you again for flying over to meet us. It was a pleasure. John managed a small thank you. We had over 300 applicants, but after reviewing everything, we've made a decision. Silence. His heartbeat was in his ears now. We would love to welcome you to the team.
Congratulations, John. You got the job. He didn't scream, didn't cry, just silence. Then, like the first time, a smile. But this one was different. This one was earned. This one was real. He looked at his hands, the same hands that once trembled when writing an email in English. He looked at the mirror, the same face that once flushed red after being asked, "Can you speak English?" And now? Now he was a man who got a job in English. The first person he called was his mom. He explained everything. How he got the offer, what the company said, when he would leave. She cried. Not because he was leaving, but because he had become. "You never gave up," she said, "even when it looked like it wasn't working." He smiled. "That's because I stopped trying to win English. I just started living with it." The next few weeks were a blur. Visa paperwork, apartment hunting, farewells. But John wasn't scared anymore, because English was no longer a foreign language. It was part of him. His voice still had an accent. He still made grammar mistakes. He still sometimes paused mid-sentence, looking for the right word. But now, he spoke with something far more powerful than perfection. Confidence. And here's the truth no one told us in school. You don't need to speak perfect English to change your life. You just need to speak it bravely. You just need to show up, day after day, word after word, and keep showing up until it no longer feels like a fight, until it becomes you. John's story isn't finished. Because language learning doesn't end when you get the job or pass the test or move abroad. No, it ends the day you stop needing to learn English, because you've started to live in it. So what about you? Maybe you're still in your bedroom right now, still watching English videos, still doubting yourself, still asking, "Am I too slow?" If so, look at John. He once thought the same thing, but he didn't give up. He didn't need to be fast. He just needed to keep going. This is the power of learning slowly, one step at a time, one sentence at a time, one brave conversation at a time. And now, it's your turn. Sometimes, it's just one call, one moment, one decision that reminds you everything you've been through mattered. The nights you whispered English to yourself in the dark, the days you repeated the same sentence 20 times, the moments you wanted to quit but didn't. All of it brought you here. And now, John isn't just someone who learned English. He's someone who lives in it, works in it, dreams in it. And you're still on your journey. But don't underestimate how far you've come. Because maybe your call is coming too. And when it does, you won't need to be perfect. You'll just need to be ready. So keep going, not fast, not flawless, just forward. If this chapter moved you, leave a comment. Tell us where you are in your journey. Like if you believe in the power of slow learning. And don't forget to subscribe, because the journey doesn't stop here. The next chapter is yours.